Hello guys, welcome to this video. Today we're going to discuss the skills and traits of the next version of SHANKS. If you don't read the manga or if you just haven't read chapter 1079, I highly suggest you to not watch this video because it contains spoilers of said chapter. Another thing I wanted to say before starting the analysis is that this SHANKS, this version of him, is not leaked. I'm just hyped because of last chapter and I wanted to extend this hype to Bounty Rush as well. So this SHANKS, this Elbaf version of him, will probably be the last one in OPBR. Of course, we'll see him again, likely against Blackbeard or maybe also in the final chapters, but I don't see him coming again to Bounty Rush with a newer version. Maybe I'm completely wrong, they won't make this new version after the fight with Kid. Maybe they'll keep it until the fight with Blackbeard. I don't know. I just think that the fight with Kid, the first name technique of SHANKS, the fact that this technique is named after Roger's technique, it's basically the same one. All of these things will generate lots of hype, and so yeah, it would only make sense for him to come out as soon as they animate them, so probably during 5th and a half anniversary. Back to the point I was trying to make, this may be the last version we get of him in all of Bounty Rush, so yeah, the only color missing among his previous EX versions is red. He is also a Kagami, in English red-haired, so yeah, and a red version is the one which makes the most sense out of all the colors, and the class is obviously going to be attacker, and maybe it could change to runner, but to keep this video relatively easy, I'll just say red attacker. Okay, now let's dive into his skills. The first one, Kamusari, is basically a buffed version of the one of Roger, so it makes him temporarily invincible and inflict opponents with knockback. I also wanted to give him teleportation because of what actually happened in the manga, but I didn't want him to have like the same skill as Film Red Shanks. Invincibility is like necessary, he is a top tier attacker, so why not give him invincibility? And about knockback, I already wanted it on Roger Kamusari, but we didn't get it. So yeah, Oden was sent flying kilometers away, Kid was clearly being pushed away, so yeah, it only makes sense for this skill Kamusari to have some knockback. Now for skill 2, it's a little bit more complex, I called it Aki Blast. The concept, well, I'm gonna read it. It's a very long range attack that creates a wide area of Aki. Ignore obstacles and deal fixed damage equal to 50% of enemy's max HP. Inflict self with red-haired Aki for 30 seconds, and when in red-haired Aki state, the character gains status effect nullification, can only be targeted by normal attacks, and cannot be staggered. That's the classic red-haired Aki state we all know. Now, the way it works is like a mix of Zephyr's Nuke and Regius' Sphere of Poison. Just like Reiju, he stops completely, he becomes temporarily invincible and creates this sphere of Aki around him, so he's the center of attack, unlike Zephyr. And what he has in common with Zephyr's Nuke is just ignoring obstacles, the fixed damage on enemies' max HP, and the fact that this sphere doesn't last like Regius, but it's just an instant. Now, about character traits, we have the classic Nullify Stun, Yonko Shanks has it, Film Red Shanks has it, so it would just make sense for him to have it as well. When you Nullify Stun, recover HP by 15% and increase defense by 15%, increases up to 75% but resets once KO'd. This trait is like a mix between Shanks, Film Red Shanks, recover of HP from stun, and Roger's increase of defense. Like Roger, this defense isn't crazy high and it doesn't last for 20 seconds, I don't remember how much it lasts, but you can stack up 15% by each time, up to 75%. Instead, when performing a perfect dodge, inflict self with Red Air Daki for 10 seconds and teleport towards the enemy. Deal fixed damage equal to 25% of enemy's max HP and inflict them with knockback. Of course, this is a mix of Film Red Shanks perfect dodge that inflicts self with Red Air Daki, but instead of 5 seconds, if I'm not wrong, it lasts for 10. And Young Rayleigh's perfect dodge, which teleports towards the enemy and deals fixed damage. But in this case, instead of being 30% of enemy's max HP, it's just 25%. Unlike Rayleigh, both versions, young and old, I didn't give him stun for this perfect dodge. Now, for trait 1, we have the classic when attacking an enemy while you're inflicted with Red Air Daki, reduces enemy's max HP by 50% of the damage dealt and increases on Red Air Daki time by 3 seconds, instead of 2. Okay, the next one is a really bad trait for anyone, you're probably gonna hate me for this, but yeah, after receiving damage from an enemy which is more than 20% of your max HP, recover HP by 30% and reduces enemy's max HP by 10% of the damage received. Now, what this means is that if a Roger Camusaris you and deals 20,000 damage to you, he gets 2,000 damage of max HP reduction. This may not seem like a lot, but if you think about it, that's a really annoying trait. Then there is a thing I thought about, which is the fact that neither Yonko Shanks nor Filmed Shanks have an extra life. Well, you could say Yonko Shanks has it, but it's just 1 HP left when his HP are above 50% and he gets KO'd. So I really wanted to give him a trait that I think all Kaido have in this game, which is recover 20% of HP one time when enough damage is taken from an enemy to KO character. Usually it's only 15%, but I felt like Shanks really deserved this, so I gave him 20. I don't know guys, I'm just making excuses. So the last trait of part 1 is that when attacked by an enemy while being in Red Air Daki state, reduce the cooldown time of skill 1 and skill 2 by 5%. Now that I think about it, maybe it could just be skill 1 cooldown, because there will be another trait for skill 2 cooldown, but I guess we can leave it there for now. So, going on trait 2, when attacking an enemy with skill 1, increase attack by 25%, increases up to 100%, but resets once KO'd. This may seem overpowered, and it probably is, but let me explain. I think that when Elbaf Shanks will come out, we'll already have Yonko Blackbeard, or maybe they'll come together, I don't know. I just think that Blackbeard will be a defender, and by the way, let me know if you want a video about him as well. So it would have a lot of sense for him to have a trait or a skill that removes attack buff. So yeah, 25% increase each time skill 1 lands on an enemy is a lot, but I think it will be appropriate for the meta Elbaf Shanks will be played in. Then, when attacked by an enemy, 50% chance to perfect dodge. We already saw this trait on Trevor, it was like 60%, but given the fact that Shanks is known as Observation Aki Killer, it would just make sense for him to at least random perfect dodge. And of course, his previous trait about it doesn't apply to this one. Then, after KOing an enemy, reduce the cooldown time of skill 2 by 30% and recover HP by 20%. Yeah, that's a pretty basic one, but he definitely needs it. Last but not least, we have boost rate, which is when attacking an enemy, 10% chance to inflict stun for 5 seconds. I know that the already existing 5% chance looks like a 50% chance, but like I said at the beginning of this video, I think that's the last version of Shanks we're going to get, so it would make sense for him to be a bit overpowered. The analysis is done, but I have one last trait that I want to talk about. It didn't fit anywhere, but I came up with this idea. That is, when attacking character type Captain, increase damage dealt by 30%, and when attacking character type power users, increase damage dealt by 20%. The reason I'm saying this is that almost all his fights and clashes in the series were against captains and power users as well, such as Captain Kidd, the most recent one, Whitebeard, theoretically Kaido right before Marineford, and Blackbeard almost certainly in the future. That's pretty much all I had to say. Again, just to clarify, I think he'll be a red attacker that can change to runner and vice versa, but I chose to go for the attacker only version because it was easier to analyze. If you made it to this point of the video, let me know what you think about it. Thank you all for watching, I'll see you in the next one, peace.